Hey friends, Michael here, licensed physio with Total Physical Therapy. Listen, I'm licensed and work in the state of Texas, and what I'm about to say is relative to you, Texas consumers of healthcare, but I'm going to extrapolate out to the entire United States and answer a very straightforward question. That question is, do you need a prescription or a referral to receive physical therapy? The answer to that, quite simply, is no. No, you do not need a prescription for physical therapy. Yes, it is true that in years past, this may have been an issue within the state that you live in. For you Texas residents, this is relatively new. It changed in 2019. And for you residents within the state of Missouri, unfortunately, you guys were the last to the ball game. You were the 50th and final state to adopt this type of strategy. Well, if you were the last, who was the first? Well, to know the first state, we have to go all the way back to 1957. 1957, Nebraska implements unrestricted direct access, which means that Nebraska residents could receive physical therapy with no referral, and they have never changed that ruling in all of the decades since. Furthermore, about 20 states in the United States actually implemented this strategy back in the 1980s, and then everybody else just followed suit through the 90s and early 2000s, again with Texas and Missouri, unfortunately being the last to the game. However, with that being said, Texas residents, this is something that's still relatively fresh, and we still don't have a consensus from other healthcare provider offices as well as public knowledge around the subject matter. In fact, we had somebody in today that was told by their primary care physician that they needed a prescription for physical therapy. So I can empathize with that physician. In today's fast-paced healthcare, it is essentially impossible to stay up to date real time with rules, regulations, and changes. As I mentioned earlier, prior to 2019, there was some truth in what this physician was educating their patient. However, no more. Texas residents no longer need that prescription. Now, why do we still have conflicting information regarding the subject at hand? Well, a couple reasons. Number one, I've already stated the obvious. It's hard to keep up with all these rules and regs. So if you are a consumer of healthcare and you are learning this for the first time, or maybe you even knew it, please educate your healthcare providers, because be empathetic to them. They can't keep pace with all of these changes as rapidly as they occur. Number two, we still have some cloudy water with some insurance carriers. Now, there are some carriers, we're seeing them at faster and faster rates adopt the acceptance of this ruling within our state. There are fewer and fewer insurance carriers that still require that. Your HMO policies are still going to require referral, but they would have anyways. And there's some other payers that from policy to policy, we still have these little subtleties of payment. But let's not confuse what you legally have the right to do versus what your insurance will pay. We can't confuse those two things, because that leaves a state of confusion in your eyes, in the public's eyes. So when somebody asks us that, the answer is simple. Yes, you can receive physical therapy. Now, how you'd like to pay for those services, we'll have to look into those details on a case-by-case basis relative to your insurance policy, which, again, can change from month to month. So that cloudies the water a little bit, but there is no confusion around the simple question, and that is, do you need a referral? Absolutely not. Now, let's go a step beyond this and actually talk about why. There's three main bullets as to why the United States has moved this way. And by the way, a lot of other nations across the entire world have been this way for a long time. The absence of the need of a referral or a prescription. However, back to my bullet points. Three main bullet points as to why we're this way. Number one, the obvious. In the United States, healthcare is burdened. They are hampered down for one simple reason. There is too much demand and too little supply. Simply put, there's not enough providers to go around. You start getting into some of those specialties and it becomes even further scarce. So things like musculoskeletal conditions and neurological conditions that impede somebody's physical ability to carry out daily tasks, occupational tasks, or sport requirements and demands, those issues are very conveniently and very well handled through physical therapy. Having the availability of physical therapy earlier gets you faster access to care. That's bullet point number one. Bullet point number two piggybacks off of that. We don't just want the access to care, we want results. We can't just kick that can down the road for months and months and expect rapid changes. So the earlier you get into physical therapy and get the problems addressed and start working on that physicality of the demands of the rigors of your day, the faster and more optimal you're going to get those results. That brings us to the last and third bullet point. This ultimately saves costs. Savings on healthcare cost is coming by people's quicker access to those services and starting to reduce wasteful and oftentimes repeated testing, the faster you can get access to this and actually start working on the physical demands of your day, the faster you're going to get results. So hopefully this clears up some of that muddy confusion. If you are a consumer and you are already privy of this knowledge, I just encourage you to continue spreading that word. And when you step into those other providers' offices, be empathetic to them the same way that I am, in knowing that it's just impossible for them to keep up on all of these rules and regulations, not only in their own discipline, but God forbid they keep up with everybody else's discipline. It's just not feasible. So, found this information useful, smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel so you can catch all the other details that will be coming your way shortly. As always, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you guys soon.